I still remember the day I packed up my cherished belongings, stared at my old rocking chair for the last time, and thought I was stepping into a new chapter of security and comfort. My name is Donald Fletcher. I'm 82 years old, and I recently moved into a nursing home here in the United States. At first, I believed this transition would spare my children from worrying about my daily care. I told myself, "Don't be a burden, don't." Maybe you've heard similar words floating in your mind or in the hearts of older folks around you. Yet from the moment the movers left and I was handed a thin welcome pamphlet, a quiet sense of regret began creeping in. Over the past months, I've come to realize that while nursing homes might offer certain benefits, like full-time medical care and social programs, there are serious downsides that can weigh heavily on a person's heart and mind. In this video, I'll share 6 major regrets that I've experienced firsthand. Trust me, there's wisdom to be gleaned here, not just for senior citizens, but also for families making tough decisions. So, if you're thinking about moving into a nursing home or encouraging a loved one to do so, stick around. Let's learn together. Before we dive into my personal regrets, I want to remind you that every situation is unique. Some folks find true relief in a nursing facility, especially if they have complex medical needs. However, I want you to understand the hard truths that may not be written in the brochures. These regrets aren't meant to condemn all nursing homes, but rather to highlight the real challenges I've faced. Feel free to comment, "I hear you, Don," if you can relate to any part of my story so far, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more heartfelt discussions. Regret 1. Losing my sense of independence. When I first signed the admission papers, I thought I'd still have some semblance of personal freedom. Little did I realize that many decisions I used to make on my own would suddenly become part of a structured routine set by the facility. Waking up at 6 a.m. for vital checks, having to request permission to leave the building, needing to notify staff even if I just wanted to take a leisurely walk outside. All of that chipped away at the independence I once took for granted. I used to drive my own car to the grocery store, pop by the local library, or enjoy a coffee at the diner around the corner. Now, even a simple errand requires scheduling with staff. Over time, I felt more like a patient than a person. The small freedoms, like deciding what time to go to bed or the exact meal I'd like for lunch, were replaced by standard procedures. This fostered a sense of helplessness, something I never imagined I'd feel so deeply. When you can't decide the little things, you begin to lose confidence in making the bigger life choices. It's unsettling how quickly that can happen. You start doubting yourself. Am I still capable? Should I speak up or just go along? That internal debate can lead to anxiety and even depression if left unchecked. If you're contemplating a nursing home for yourself or a loved one, be aware of how vital independence truly is. The staff often mean well. They follow regulations and try to keep residents safe. But ask yourself, is this environment going to help me feel like I'm still living, or will I feel like I'm just existing under a set of rules? If you're already here, like I am, don't be afraid to ask for small liberties. For instance, see if you can manage your own wake-up schedule or have occasional day passes to visit your old neighborhood. If losing independence is something you worry about, comment 1 to let me know you share this concern. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. I'll keep sharing insights like these to help you make a more informed decision. I appreciate everyone who commented or took a moment to reflect on regret 1. Let me tell you, I never realized how much I valued my ability to decide for myself until it was partially taken away. And while independence is crucial, it's often the relationships around us that keep us going. That leads me to the next point, which hits me in the heart every time I think about it. Remember, if any of this resonates with you, keep the conversation going in the comments. Your interaction helps not just me, but others who are listening in. Regret 2. Feeling forgotten by family and friends. For decades, my home was the gathering spot for family get-togethers, holiday dinners, summer barbecues, game nights. But the moment I moved into the nursing facility, those lively visits slowly tapered off. Sure, family members came in the beginning, bringing flowers or a new blanket to brighten my room. Then, life got busy for them. My grandchildren had after-school activities. My daughter had her job and her own household chores. Before I knew it, the phone calls became less frequent and the face-to-face visits practically dropped off a cliff. The emotional toll is profound. I'd sit in the common area hoping I'd see a familiar face walk through the door. Day after day, my only interaction would be with the staff or other residents. Sometimes I felt like I was invisible, like I had been carefully placed on a shelf, visited occasionally, then left to collect dust. Let me tell you, loneliness in old age can be crushing. It's not just about missing people, it's about feeling as though you no longer matter in their lives. Have I outlived my usefulness? That question gnawed at me constantly. If you are considering a nursing home, realize that friends and family, even with the best intentions, may not visit as often as you'd hope. It doesn't always mean they don't care, it's just that life moves on outside these walls. Plan ahead. Schedule regular check-ins, maybe a weekly call or a standing invitation for Sunday lunch if your facility allows it. Communicate with your family, tell them explicitly how important those visits are. Otherwise, you might find yourself feeling forgotten, just like I did. Have you or a loved one ever felt overlooked or forgotten in any way? Comment too if that's true for you. Also, don't forget to like this video to let me know these topics hit home. I genuinely appreciate your support and your stories. Those first two regrets, loss of independence and feeling forgotten, can be tough to swallow. They're personal, they sting, and they're not always easy to talk about. But the truth is, these regrets are only part of a larger picture. Nursing home life doesn't just affect how you live or how often people visit. It can also shape how you connect with the world beyond these walls. Up next is a regret that took a little longer for me to notice, but when it hit me, it hit hard. Stick around because the third regret might surprise you. Regret 3: isolation from the outside world. When I lived in my own house, I made it a point to stay connected. Church on Sundays, a local community center on Wednesdays for bingo, and even a regular coffee group at McDonald's on Friday mornings. Transitioning to a nursing home, I assumed I'd still have access to local events or spontaneous outings. However, these facilities often operate with strict schedules. Outings might happen once a month, if that. Despite communal living, the sense of a larger community can slip away if you're not careful. Without consistent opportunities to step outside, talk to new people, or engage with civic groups, I started to feel my world shrinking. It's not just physical isolation where you might be stuck within the same corridors, but also mental isolation. I used to tune in to local news and volunteer for neighborhood cleanups. Now I find myself less interested in what's happening in my old community because it feels so distant and unattainable. That kind of detachment can lead to disappointment, a dull ache of missing out on life as it unfolds. Before long, you might lose the motivation to get involved in anything beyond your immediate surroundings. While social programs do exist in many nursing homes, they can be limited. Check the calendar and see if it lines up with your interests. If you're an avid gardener, see if there's a garden club. If you love the library, ask if they offer trips there. Otherwise, it's all too easy to slip into an insular existence. And if you're not careful, isolation can morph into boredom and feelings of deep loneliness. You'll want to strike a balance, stay safe, but also keep one foot in the larger world. If isolation is something you fear, comment 3 below. Let's help each other figure out strategies to stay connected. And if this video is speaking to you, please subscribe for more personal insights and advice. My experiences might just save you from making the same mistakes. Thank you to everyone who has been sharing their thoughts. It means a lot to know I'm not just talking into an empty void. Each regret is a puzzle piece in a broader picture of what it's truly like to live in a nursing home. Next, I want to discuss something that isn't talked about much: how the move can impact your sense of dignity and emotional well-being. This isn't just about physical limitations, it's about how we see ourselves and how we handle the constant reminder that life isn't what it used to be. Regular 4. Feeling underestimated and emotionally vulnerable. When you move into a nursing home, you're often surrounded by medical professionals and staff who are trained to care for elderly individuals. That might sound great in theory, but here's a hidden downside. You can end up feeling like you're being talked down to or treated like a child. They call it elder speak in some studies, an overly simplistic, sometimes patronizing tone staff use with residents. Phrases like, "Isn't that nice, dear?" or "Good job, sweetie," might be well-intentioned, but they can make you feel less competent than you are. Being consistently underestimated can erode your self-esteem. Over time, a subtle sense of shame or guilt can creep in because you start believing that maybe you truly are incapable. You doubt your ability to do basic tasks, even if your mind is still sharp. Worse yet, sometimes staff or even other residents might assume that because you're older, you're automatically less aware of what's happening around you. For me, it felt like a silent erosion of the pride I once took in my independence and abilities. Emotional vulnerability is a real thing here. You become more sensitive to negative comments, staff oversights, and even the frustrations of those around you. Don't let anyone define your capabilities for you. If you're moving into a nursing home, set the tone early. Make it known that you value respectful communication. Speak up if you feel you're being patronized. If you have a family member in a nursing home, advocate for them. Ask how the staff addresses residents. Small gestures like calling you by your preferred name instead of a diminutive nickname can make a big difference in preserving your dignity. If you've ever felt belittled or misunderstood as a senior, comment 4 to share your story or just to show solidarity. And again, don't forget to hit that like button if you find this information helpful. The more you engage, the more we can bring awareness to these overlooked issues. 4 regrets down, and it's not getting any easier to share. Still, I hope my words can serve as a beacon for those walking a similar path. Next up is one that might feel a bit more tangible, something you can see, touch, and sense every day: the quality of care and the overall environment you find yourself in. Because, you see, not all nursing homes are created equal, and the differences can really shape your experience. Let's tackle the 5th regret, which revolves around the day-to-day routine and the level of attention you receive. Regret 5: disappointment in daily care and facility routines. Many nursing homes are understaffed, underfunded, or both. That means the ratio of residents to caregivers can be alarmingly high, limiting the time each staff member can devote to individual care. Little details, like your favorite soap, your bedtime preference, or even how you like your eggs, may be overlooked. Large institutions often have rigid meal schedules, set bath times, and strictly controlled medication routine. In my case, I found myself frustrated when staff rushed through tasks. It felt like I was on a conveyor belt, not a human being with personal preferences. When you're disappointed in your daily care, it chips away at your sense of well-being. Small annoyances accumulate. Maybe you didn't get your pain medication on time, or your laundry was mixed up with someone else's. Over weeks and months, these small issues can lead to constant stress. You might develop a sense of fear that you'll be ignored, that mistakes will be made, or that your physical and emotional needs won't be met. I've witnessed some residents become deeply frustrated and anxious, feeling powerless to improve their own circumstances. If you're shopping around for a nursing home, don't just look at the decorations in the lobby. Ask real questions. What is the staff-to-patient ratio? Are caregivers assigned permanently to specific residents, or do they rotate? How does the facility handle special requests or complaints? Talk to current residents if you can, or read reviews from families who have loved ones there. If you're already in a place that's not meeting your needs, advocate for yourself or enlist family members to help. Don't assume this is as good as it gets. Have you ever felt disappointed in the quality of care, whether for yourself or a loved one? Comment 5 if this resonates, and if you're finding this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Sharing these experiences can empower more seniors to speak up. We've come a long way, and if you're still watching, I commend you. The last regret I want to share is something a bit more complex. It's not about a single event or interaction. It's about a profound realization that maybe there were other paths. Sometimes the hardest regret is thinking, could I have done things differently? Let's explore that in our 6th regret. And remember, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you know someone who might benefit from hearing this, don't hesitate to send them a link. Regret 6. Realizing there were alternatives I never explored. The biggest revelation hit me about 3 months into my stay. I hadn't fully considered other living options before signing up for a nursing home. I rushed into it because I feared burdening my family. We never seriously looked into in-home care services, senior co-op communities, or living with a relative in a more permanent arrangement. I realize now there is a spectrum of possibilities, from hiring a part-time nurse or homemaker to exploring assisted living facilities that prioritize independence. Once I signed on the dotted line, I felt locked in. The process to move out again, finding a new place, coordinating finances, getting the family on board, seemed daunting. A wave of regret swept over me as I thought, if only I'd taken the time to research, to gather more opinions, to budget differently, maybe I wouldn't be feeling so trapped right now. That sense of having missed out on better paths can lead to bitterness. And once bitterness sets in, it's hard to maintain a hopeful outlook. Don't assume the nursing home is the only or best option. Talk to healthcare professionals, financial advisors, and relatives. Visit multiple facilities, assisted living, independent living communities, or even short-term respite care homes before making a final decision. Check if your insurance or government programs like Medicaid or Medicare can support in-home care. Remember, once you make the move, reversing it can be a significant challenge both emotionally and financially. If you wish someone had told you about alternative options before making a big move, comment 6 below, and please, if you haven't yet, like and subscribe. My hope is that by sharing these regrets, someone out there will make a more informed choice than I did. We've covered some tough ground: loss of independence, feeling forgotten, isolation, emotional vulnerability, disappointment in care, and missed alternatives. These regrets each carry their own weight, but they also intertwine, forming a broader picture of why I feel the way I do. Still, I don't want you to leave this video in despair. Let's transition to the final section, where I'll share some closing thoughts and important philosophical lessons I've learned. There is, after all, a glimmer of hope and choice in every situation, even in places we least expect. Before I wrap up, let me say, nursing homes aren't evil. They can be a genuine lifesaver for some folks, especially those needing round-the-clock medical attention or specialized care. My intention isn't to paint an entirely grim picture, but rather to offer you a realistic one. If there's one thing I've learned at 82, it's that life is a mixed bag. We find blessings in the most unlikely places, and we face hardships even when we think we've found an easy solution. But let's distill this journey into 3 deeper lessons. 1. Don't value your autonomy even in a setting that restricts it. Fight for whatever independence you can keep. The choices you make, even small ones, define your sense of self. As an old saying goes, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. Never stop advocating for the life you want. 2. Communicate and plan ahead. Regret often arises from decisions made hastily or in isolation. Don't wait until a crisis hits. Have honest conversations with your children, your spouse, or even your neighbors about how you envision your golden years. Information is power. Gather it before you need to make a choice. 3. Seek connection, always. Human beings weren't made to live alone. Whether you're in a big city or a nursing home, look for ways to connect. Even small gestures like volunteering at an activity within the facility, calling old friends, or joining an online community can rekindle your sense of belonging. I truly hope these reflections serve you well. Like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe if you want more heartfelt discussions on aging, independence, and family. Remember, a nursing home is just one chapter in your story. It doesn't have to be the entire book. Thank you for listening, and God bless.